Hi, this is your host, Alex, and this is the Tap and Tap Out podcast. And as always, in this podcast, we tap into discussions around mental wellness, spirituality, and pop culture, and tap out of the patterns that no longer serve us. Amen. How are we doing this week? I am feeling fine. A very steady okay. Actually doing pretty good. I don't know why I'm trying to lower it, but definitely up and down, mood during the day, but that's normal. Hasn't really creeped into abnormal yet. It's just kind of seasons changing, the weather's turning a little bit, and I'm kind of nervous. I'm still on the East Coast when I moved, but I'm officially in a place that snows. That will snow, probably will snow. And so if you guys don't know this, you probably should, but I am from the Bahamas, and so I didn't grow up with snow. The weather was just hot and less hot. And so this would be new for me, to be in a long-term place that the seasons, have different seasons. So I'm hoping that I adjust well. This also was intentional, honestly, so I can kind of test out how I do with an environment where the weather changes and stuff. So we'll see. But my mood is partly dependent on the weather. I think I'm learning how to build a resilience, but at the same time, I can definitely think back to even being back home and when the weather was colder, I'm tend to be a little bit more, somber, versus when it's more hot. That's when I feel more normal, I guess. And then when it gets colder, I kind of feel out of place, and so I'm anticipating some dissociation, but I'm trying to be aware of it. So if it does come, I'm not taken out by it. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. I get my work done. My grad school is going just fine. It's very exhausting, but it's definitely very rewarding work. If you guys want to hear more about my grad school antics, I post a newsletter every 2 weeks. You should sign up for that because I post a vlog where I talk about a lot of that stuff. But today we are doing I guess a mixture of stuff, conversations. I feel like it's been a while since I've been able to just sit down and catch up on pop culture, catch up on what's going on. I have a rant as always for later, but before we get into that, last episode technically was the announcement recording for the new guided journal that I released called Questions That Need Love. It is available right now, Amazon. Paperback. It's so exciting. I worked so hard on that personally. If you haven't heard the episode, I encourage you to go back and listen. It's 20 minutes long. Basically, I break down my heart behind it, why it's a thing. It's my baby. Each chapter / reflection goes through different parts of my life. Kind of it's obviously not biography. It's kind of because I used to write poetry, if you didn't know, and so it is kind of a figurative kind of take, but also it's I'm telling a story, and so I'm kind of choosing very specific parts of my life, without sharing too much, just kind of an overview, but enough that you're able to use my story or use some parts of my life as leverage to consider these questions that might be hard to answer in your life, and choosing to invest the time and the energy into answering those questions for yourself, or even just asking yourself these questions and seeing how you sit with that. And so it's very interesting. It's literally a mini book and a journal in one. So I'm so excited about it. On Amazon, it's available as paperback. And this month, I'm also starting a Patreon. So I'll be in the bio as well. And on the Patreon, we have a lot of monthly perks. So to go along with the podcast, I'm starting live streams this month. And so a live stream for Tap and Tap Out, doing a live stream book club situation. So if you get, I believe the Evergreen tier on Patreon, you will have access to a full copy, digital copy of the journal, but also you get access to those monthly book club meetings where we talk about how you're dealing with the book, how you're dealing with the characters, how you're dealing with what's coming up. And so we'll definitely chop it up and kiki, and it'll be great. And I'm very excited for those conversations. Also, I'm doing bonus videos over there, recommendation posts. So any like books, music, articles. It's a safe space to stay grounded if you've been kind of like lost lately and just want to go somewhere that's like safe and accessible, but also fun and like keep up with some news even. So I like really want to do more work in bridging that pop culture and mental wellness part. So a lot of that's going to be over there as well, along with being here. So that's really exciting. They'll be all in the description. I encourage you to support a humble grad student in his in his endeavors because times are tough. Anyway, the episode before that was the imposter syndrome episode with Hanifa. Amazing episode. I love that episode so much. Hanifa's amazing. Please check her out. But yeah, talk about imposter syndrome, the ins and outs of that, some personal experiences with imposter syndrome, and also unpacking how we can maybe approach it in a healthier way as people. And that was an amazing episode as well. I do not have questions this week because I did not ask. So from now on, I'm not gonna, because I keep forgetting to ask for questions. And so if you ever have questions, please send them my way to the inbox. You can email heartofshama@gmail.com or DM myself on Instagram at @JustAlexToday or Twitter. And I'll be sure to take a look at it and see how I can fit it in an episode. Also, like episode topics, guest ideas, episode ideas, please send them my way. I'd love to hear all of it. Once again, I am not a licensed professional, but I can tell you what I would do. So that's the caveat of the question. But if not, I'll always bring up music or bring up some culture. Any questions I have to ask, I will bring them here. We'll answer them together. So yes, this week we're doing a flurry of things, like I mentioned. So for the tap in, I had this idea, and when I really unpacked it, I realized it was really a tap out conceptually. And so I'm gonna move that to the tap out. And so for the tap in, we're gonna do some music, pop culture catch up, news situation, because there's a lot been happening, and I haven't been really. I've been tapped in, but I haven't tapped y'all into what's happening. And so we're gonna take a quick break. When we get back, we're gonna get into some music, news, music updates, music, pop culture, great stuff. I'm very excited. So get your popcorn, get your tea. I don't know what you need to get comfortable, but be back after the break. Okay, I'm gonna go. It's now time for the tap in. Like I said, we're talking about music this week, some culture catch up. I just cherry pick some things that I'm interested in personally because I'm not gonna talk about things that I don't have interest in. And so if I miss a really major story, it's probably intentional. So first up, I wanted to bring up Britney Spears because we did do an episode involving her early on. I feel like episode 5 maybe or 4. It was episode 5, I believe. Archie Spears. If you want to listen, that was one of my favorite episodes. You listen to that one. It was really fun. But in that episode, we talked about Britney and her conservatorship because I believe it was the Hulu documentary that came out that talked about her conservatorship and bringing some more awareness to what's been going on the past several years with her father and people who are connected to her father. I don't have a lot of like segues and tangents for this, but I feel like in the media it's been the father, but and there has been some awareness of like, okay, it's like it's a team effort, like whoever's been putting this together, like there's attorneys, there's people, right, that are also pulling the strings here. And so like, yes, I feel like Britney's father was like the main perpetrator, but also, making room to hold others accountable as well in this entire mess. But thankfully it was announced recently that Britney has gotten cleared to leave her conservatorship under her father, and we are elated, we are happy. Hashtag Britney is freed. She also got engaged recently to her longtime boyfriend, which we also enjoy. And I'm just super relieved because personally for me, I was not on the streets, shouting free Britney. Like, And that's not anything to do with the validity of the movement, because I think it's very valid, but I just have not been as like tapped in as I could have been with her story. And I think that like it's hard when you think about celebrities and how we can like we extend ourselves to assist them. And like I'm sharing my posts, I'm doing a little social media, this thing and that thing. I think talking about it now is on this podcast is a way of activism. But to those who actually were like on the streets in front of the courthouse, like really protesting and really bringing awareness, like shout out to y'all, because I don't think this would have moved as fast as it did, even though it was terribly long. But I don't think it would have been as expedited if people weren't committed to bring awareness to it. And so and Brittany, I think, has talked a lot about her fans being so special to her because of that. And so I am really thankful that Brittany can just be free and enjoy herself. And speaking of enjoying herself, I read this article just now that said her manager, I guess, reached out and said that she is probably going to be considering retirement soon. And I haven't looked because I don't want to get disappointed, but I could imagine people being kind of upset, being like, oh, like you just got free and now, you want to take a break or you want to do this. Power to Britney Spears. Please take all the time you need. It has, I think, retirement in the music industry has become a little bit of a frivolous thing, because famously Nicki Minaj announced retirement a while ago, and then she came back. So and then also I think Tiana Taylor has also announced retirement, and she's doing a farewell tour actually. So it's not uncommon for musicians, celebrities to announce retirement. But I think the ways that what retirement means for us as like civilian people, I think is a little bit different than what retirement means for them in their context. I feel like retirement is just another way to say like an extended rest, a way to like don't expect me to show up. Like I'm gonna show up when I need to show up, and so like in that sense. And even if it wasn't an official, like, I'm gonna retire, never come back sense, like, I would have been fine with that, Britney Spears. Like, please, you've given us enough. The girls are still eating, girls are still getting fed. And so I'm completely fine with Britney Spears doing whatever she wants to do after this is all over, because she's just been through so much, And, like, I personally can't imagine being in a situation um, and getting out of bed on somebody else's will. Like, anyway. I couldn't do it. So shout out to Britney Spears. We're happy for you. We love you here. We support you. Um, keep going, or sit down. That's okay too. Also, unrelated to Britney Spears, but The Voice is back. I talked about this a little bit in the newsletter, the private vlogs. I do, but I personally love The Voice. I used to watch The Voice a lot in high school. But I kind of stopped when I feel like 11th, 12th grade, I kind of just stopped watching. Into high school, into college, stopped watching. And then it was announced this year that Ariana Grande would be a judge on The Voice. And so guess who had no choice but to watch? It's me. And so I've been committing several hours a week to watching The Voice simply because Ariana Grande is on it. And it's enjoyable. I don't think she like makes or breaks the show. But I just love The Voice. I love watching her on it. I feel like as an Ariana fan, I haven't been able to see her be social, Like we've gotten music videos, we've gotten a very prepackaged idea of like what she wants to give us, but we haven't been able to really see her socialize with people. We got the was it Sweetener? Child, look at me showing myself. We whatever she did a Netflix documentary about one of her tours. And I feel like in that we got to see a little bit more how she operates as a person. But even though The Voice is very produced and very staged, in a way it is giving us a lot of like just how she behaves, And as a psych person, I just love to watch people naturally. And so like that's why I love reality TV. And I just love watching Ariana just be, I don't know, be a coach, and like I want to coach these young people and older people to their careers. I live, and I love Kelly Clarkson, also a judge on The Voice. She's definitely like a mainstay on that show. And I feel like honestly, I don't want to talk about this, but I feel like if I were to go on The Voice, so right now it's Kelly Clarkson, John Legend, Ariana, and Blake Shelton. And so I feel like if I was going, my strategy would be to get Kelly because, and this is just me being honest. This is a strategy, and you can answer this for yourself. Let me know which team you want to be on this season. But for me, I feel like it's not impossible because I think Kelly won her first season she was on. It happens often. I think John also did it. I don't know. Anyway, I think Miley did it too. Miley Cyrus. Anyway, it's not uncommon, but I think the chances are lower. I mean, in my personal opinion, love Ariana, but I don't even. I've been watching the blinds too, like blind auditions, and I don't know who's gonna win. Obviously, I have no idea, but I think it's more likely that somebody who's on the show before as a coach is gonna win than somebody who is brand new. You know, like it happens. It definitely has happened a few times, but I'd go with Kelly because I feel like this is again, is me being honest. Out of everybody, I feel like Kelly would be the one if when it came to like the battles, when it came to the knockouts, I feel like Kelly would consider me as a person. Like I feel like Kelly's very humanistic, and so I feel like Kelly would look at me and be like, you know, I really love what we've built together, and I can't see you go. Whereas I feel like John Legend and Blake Shelton might be a little bit more cut and dry, you know, with like what they need to win, versus Kelly seeing the heart of me. And so I think trusting the mom and Kelly, I'd go with Kelly because I feel like, and she's so talented. She's won American Idol herself. And so I feel like she has experience. I would go with Kelly. Kelly's really, I think, one of the best choices this season to go with if she turns for you. Also, I feel like most of the black people pick John Legend, understandably, because you have that comfortability. And he's obviously like R&B down. And so it makes sense you want to go with John Legend if you're into that. Um, but I would go with Kelly. Now, if I'm really being like just doing it for the fun of it, and I just want to be on the show, and Ariana turned for me, I pick Ariana because it's been interviews. She's said how she's so invested in her team, and she's like broken a contract to like talk to them and like send them gifts. And I'm like, okay, if I'm thinking about career wise and longevity and winning the show, I go with Kelly. But if I'm really going there to like meet Ariana, then I'm gonna pick Ariana Grande. But it's just so fun to watch, and I love on Instagram seeing Ariana like promote her people and shout them out and stuff. And one thing that's been a little bit bothersome about this season, and it's been a while since I've watched, so maybe I'm like just late to this, but I feel like this show is kind of like telling on itself sometimes when it comes to how they treat the contestants because a lot of the, so if you don't know, you should know what The Voice is, but you know, you go up there and you sing and the chairs are turned and they can press their button and turn for you. And so after they turn, they have to like negotiate with each other, like the coaches have to like kind of pitch themselves. And so in this pitching, this didn't really happen back in the day, I feel like, but there's a lot of like the pitching strategies stem from like what they do outside of the show. And so Kelly will be like, oh, you know, well, I have a talk show, so keep that in mind, you know. And then Ariana will be like, oh, well, I have, you know, well, I think she didn't say this, but I think Kelly said this about her to help her in her pitch. But she was like, Ariana has like the most followers on Instagram, like she's one of the most followed people on Instagram. That'd be really helpful, you know. And so like, there's a reality in these shows where like most people will not win, and even as we've seen, people who win the show, maybe they have like a couple months of like spotlight, and we don't hear from them again. And so like it's interesting that they're like leveraging what they do outside of the show and the connections they have to win them for the singing competition. Like it feels a little bit weird, being honest. And I feel like back in the day it wasn't like this. I'm talking about like Christina Aguilera and Shakira and Usher on the show. Like that's when I was really watching. And it wasn't like that. Like they were just there to be the musician for that show, and you didn't really think about them outside of that show. But there have been some successes. I know there's this guy, I think his name is Devin. Ugh, I don't remember his name. His first name is really Devin though. But I don't remember his last name. But he was on The Voice, and he was on Team Jennifer Hudson, and to this day he is her backup singer. And so like there are definitely perks to like extending yourself. I'm not sure if J Hud actually like used that as leverage for him to pick her. I don't think that happened, but obviously naturally because they found that connection and relationship, they were able to move into that after he left the show. Versus now, even before people even get picked for the team, the judges, I mean, the coaches are like, "Hey, I have this opportunity, that opportunity," and it feels a little bit like empty promises because everybody can't be on a Kelly Clarkson show. I'm sorry, everybody can't be Ariana's backup singer, and so I'm just interested to see where this goes this season because I feel like the fourth wall is kind of being broken in terms of like what happens when the show's over and what happens even during the show and how we treat contestants because famously I don't think that the black contestants get treated fairly. I think it's less about the voice. I think it happens across a lot of competition shows and I think it's more about what people want to see, you know? Like a lot of people I feel like the average consumer is fine with seeing like the one black woman that can like sing down the house, you know, and she like grew up in church and whatever. And like I think people are like okay with seeing one of them. And so like well, I think the show starts and you have like 6 or 7 black women who are like amazing singers, but then by the time you get to like the top 14, you know, we only want to see one of them, the best one of them, you know, but it's like I feel like there's a little bit more diversity in voice, tone, disposition and generosity given to like the contestants that are white. I feel like they just I don't know, like we'll have like 6 or 7 country boys up in the top 13. You know what I mean? But we have to have that one black girl who made it through. Like I just feel like I don't think it's a voice thing. I think it's actually like a more how we think about archetypes and like consumer culture. I don't think it's the voice's fault. I just think it's just how the world like I think this would function in any show as we've seen even like Big Brother. If you guys watch that, I don't, but there's been this whole thing about how they changed their rules, or I guess they're like casting guidelines, and so like their shows have to involve more people of color involved, and even this first season where there's been the most black contestants forever on the show, and how much controversy that caused in terms of like what they did because of that on the show, and their partnerships together and alliances, how they use those alliances to put everybody out, and having like an all black top contestants, you know, and so like and people like not liking that, and you know, and so I think that like we see when we're allowed to like hold space and take up space and provide great television, people aren't really enjoying it because they don't want to see that, right? And so like um I don't know, hopefully The Voice this season doesn't really swing that way, but the way it's starting, it just feels very classic The Voice, and so like watching the season is not super like groundbreaking, like this is so different because Ariana's here, like she's definitely fitting the formula and it's going great as the show always does. I love watching it. I love the stories. I'm a sap, as we know. So, loving The Voice this season. If you don't watch it, let me know if you could do because I'm watching it and I have my little voice app where you pick your team. I'm gonna be really pressed if they kick anybody off on my team because I feel like I pick for like my favorites, but also like who I think is gonna make it far. I'll let y'all know if my person wins that I picked, and that's that on that. All right. Also, I want to touch on Chloe and Halle right now because they are so on it, and what they're doing together, what they're doing separately. I am in love. I've been watching Chloe and Halle since YouTube days back in the day. We're like the same age, so I feel like just watching them has always been kind of like a mirror for me. To see these young people like just doing great things and being awesome. And I don't want to say perfect, but like when they perform, it's just perfection. Like I just love what they do. Um, I want to focus on Halle for today because I feel like Chloe, she's up there. Have Mercy came out this summer, and the video came out the VMA performance. Sorry, and I'm loving who she's becoming. People get kind of iffy about it with her, like, is she worshiping the devil and blah blah blah. But y'all are acting really fresh. That's all I would say because she goes on Twitter and she makes a video and like explains herself or whatever. But like the fact that she has to go and do that, it's just like ridiculous. Like I don't know. I could see the imagery, I could see whatever, but like I just feel like it's played out now. This Illuminati stuff is played out. Like what do we know about Illuminati? Anyway, this is not about that. This is not the podcast for the Illuminati. Um. Anyway, with Hallie though, if you guys saw, she performed for the Disney 50th anniversary special thing. I didn't watch it, but I watched her performance because she was the last thing on docket, and she sang "Can You Feel the Love Tonight." And I think that's my favorite Disney song. Like hearing it, I got so emotional, and I was like, "It's my favorite Disney song," and I think it is. I have the Broadway version on my phone. I have the movie version on my phone. I have Beyonce and Childish Gambino's version on my phone, and I wish I had this version because this is my favorite one now because she killed it. She's in this beautiful black gown. There's an orchestra, live orchestra playing, and she's like right in front of the castle. And then when she goes for her like high notes and towards the end, like the fireworks go off, and it is just I get so emotional thinking about it. I've watched it like 7,000 times now, and it only came out 2 days ago, and so I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like I've been trying to think about it. Like why am I so emotional about this? And I just, she's definitely the future of like Disney's next phase. You know, in terms of that princess. Like I think Disney's also Marvel now, so I'm less separate from Marvel. I mean like Disney branding. Halle is definitely just gonna be up there now, and I think I'm so excited for her as Ariel, Little Mermaid. That's coming out in 2023, and she's gonna do so well. I hope they keep her locks. I think she's gonna do a wig, but I hope they just do like red locks. I feel like that would look sick. Anyway, um, that performance is so good. Top 5 things I've heard this year. Period. I just love Holly's voice. She really killed that arrangement. I don't know what it is, and I don't often. Okay, this is a lie. I was gonna say I don't often geek over stuff like this. I do, and so this is this is not uncommon for me. But I obsess. I love this song. Like I think it's my favorite song from Disney. Period. It's definitely my favorite like non-princess movie for sure. Lion King is amazing. I've watched it 1,000 times, and so anyway, just check them out. I love them. I think is Grownish still on right now, or is it over? I don't even know. I stopped watching it. It's not their fault. Because Grownish was timed exactly as I started college, and so season 1 I watched when I was a freshman, and I liked it a lot. But then I think I was gonna watch season 2 in sophomore year, but like I just got overwhelmed because I was living my college life, and so to watch them live their college life was kind of stressful for me. So I just stopped watching. I was like, I can't do this. I'm trying to handle my own experience. And that's also why I can't watch Dear White People. Maybe I'll watch it later after now that I'm graduated and like I can like look back. But Dear White People was also hard because I didn't like watching people in college like me. I don't know what it is. But anyway, I think they had only had 4 seasons because not I'm talking about Grownish. I think Grownish had 4 seasons for each year of college. So I think I heard it's a great show. I love season 1, but like I said, I just couldn't continue because it just was stressing me out. um Also side note, not super big news wise, but Yebba's album is out. It's amazing. I played the whole thing through a couple times, and I'm in love. Her Tiny Desk though is literally one of the best Tiny Desks I've heard all year, maybe of all time. The background singers in that really delivered. I love it. Check it out. It's great. The last thing on my list to talk about, I guess Disney related as well, is China and McClain has released her and her sisters, they have a group called Thrii, and I guess through Disney they released Calling All the Monsters, like a reboot of the song, featuring someone named Messenger. I'm not sure exactly who he is, but I did try to do some light research, and he definitely helps produce other tracks of the group, and so he's definitely tied to like China and the sisters. But I personally thought, okay, I'm gonna get into like why I brought this up, but overall, I think it's been the 10-year anniversary of the song. I personally love the song. There's been like a Halloween maybe 2 years ago, a year ago. Where I'll just every between October 1st and the 31st, I'll probably Google the song and play it. You know what I mean? Get it out of my system because I'm, oh, it's Halloween. Let me play this song. So it was fun to see it redone. There's a video to it and audio. It's on Spotify. I first thought that it was like the group three, that they produced it themselves, but then I saw it was on Disney's YouTube, so I think it was actually a Disney production, and they invited them back to do it or whatever that negotiation worked or whatever. There's a lot of controversy. There's two levels to this. One is people are saying that the what to call it? I guess the reboot. I don't want to say the reboot, but the reboot is a little worse than the original. And I think there's nostalgia tied to the original. I think the original is classic, you know. However, I can see why people wouldn't like the newer one, even though it's not that different, to be honest. Personally, there are parts in the newer one that I appreciate more. Like, for example, like, because there are three of them, they like harmonize on certain parts and it sounds really good. Like really, really good. The rap in it that was added, I don't really care for, but it's not. I don't think it didn't need to be there. You know, like it's fine being there. I didn't need it there. It felt very Disney. That's why I was kind of confused because the words he was using was kind of like very like Descendants, those movies. Like Descendants rap track, you know? And so it's cute. I'm not upset that it's here. I'm not upset that it exists. I think it was definitely a nice touch for 10 years. Now the second layer of this controversy, and I don't want to get too much into it because I don't have a lot of enough personal experience listening to what people are trying to critique. But I'm aware that China and McLean has invested a lot of time on her social media to her faith, her spirituality, and how she navigates that, and sharing her theology. And people, I honestly, because I'm kind of out of it, I'm not fully sure what's the overall feelings towards it. Like, at least for the Christians in my life, particularly, they'll share it. I've heard somebody use it in their own sermon before, like a young person, and so like for people who have a faith background, like I think they respond well to it because China is someone that they knew from a young age, and now they can watch her have a faith-filled life with her, you know, and that's cool. But anyway, there are people who, after watching the Calling All the Monsters music video and the song, use that to like make fun of her, especially on Twitter, and I didn't particularly enjoy that. Again, like I'm not as invested in the whole story. I've seen maybe one or two videos of hers, like her IG lives, where she talks about God, but I haven't watched enough to really have an opinion. But yeah, watching people like make memes of her about like, oh, Miss God said this and blah blah blah, and like I don't know, just making fun of her because now she has Halloween. Obviously, Halloween has like a certain stigma in some faith communities, and so like people took it upon themselves to use that as leverage to like make fun of her. And I think, I honestly, just to come from an honest place, I her being a black woman automatically just gives me a little bit more compassion and like patience with that. And so like I didn't jump to be like, oh, look at her, like making fun, like look at her, you know. But I think I jumped kind of more to like the defensive, just person that I am and how I grew up. And so all I'll say is like I feel like it's hard, you know. I think maybe it gave a little bit more grace to people who grew up in the industry and grew up in spotlight. A lot of us can't relate to that, you know. A lot of us can't relate to what it means to have to explore yourself and find out who you are in front of a camera, you know. And it is a very first world thing in a lot of ways, and privileged and kind of classist, but at the same time I feel like we can give some grace to Miss China. You know, like I don't think it's like I think you can like be strongly for God or strongly for your faith on social media and still do a Halloween music video, especially to commemorate a 10-year milestone like that song was. And so like I think it was mostly in fun, but I'm also a believer that a lot of things that happen at its core have truth to them, and I feel like people actually don't. A lot of people just don't really care for her now because of her faith professing. But if it's not harming anybody, power to you, girl. Like I don't know, like I like I again, like I haven't listened to enough to really have an opinion and be like she should stop or she should continue. But like um she has social media like we do, so she can use it how she wants to. and it's not harming anybody, as far as I know, unless people are like truly getting damaged, or she's sending hate to somebody. I don't know. But again, this me being ignorant about what she's actually saying. But anyway, the song itself, I give it a thumbs up. I give it a B plus. The B plus. It's like between a B plus and an A minus. I'll give it an A minus. I give it an A minus. It was pretty good, and the harmonies, like I said, are pretty good. So anyway, that's all I have this week. Very sporadic, very random, but in my life, these are things that are important to me. So you're welcome. We're taking a quick break. When we get back, we're gonna jump into the tap out where I have a rant I gotta get to. So I'll see you there. It's time for the small business shout out, and this week I am shouting out myself. Period. As I mentioned earlier, please check out my new guided journal, Questions That Need Love. It is a guided journal for curious self-reflection, and it's made with lots of love, and you can find affirmations in there, just some reflections on life, and some hard truths, but also some comforting truths too. And so I encourage you to check it out in the bio. And also, if you're looking for a digital copy, you can go through my Patreon and gain access to a little book club I'm starting, where we can unpack that book. We're bringing some other books to talk about as well, because I'm really getting into reading. If you guys couldn't tell, I am living my best life. And so I would love to share what I've been learning and hear what you guys have been learning, and just hold space for each other in this season. And so please check out the Patreon down below. It will be in the description. All right, it's time for the tap out. Before we get into that, I have more thoughts from the tap in. I need to get out. I have really, if you guys didn't know, I take really rough notes for this podcast. Unless it's if it's a guest, baby, it's like bam, 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 bam. But when I'm doing it for me, I give myself crumbs and expect myself to work it out and remember everything I want to talk about. But one more thing about China and McClain, and I was going to talk about this in relation to Chloe as well, because I think there's something to be said about, you can call it a parasocial relationship. And so if you don't know, PARA social relationship refers to essentially what we have on social media, where people, maybe influencers, musicians, artists, like they present themselves as people, and there's this imposed idea that like, oh, we're friends, or like, I know you, right? But really we don't really know them at all. So like, even going back to like bar behavior episode, Nicki Minaj and the Barbs, right? Like that is a really strong parasocial relationship. Nicki has been able to selectively share parts of her life, and people over time feel as though they really know who she is, what she goes through, why she makes her choices. And I don't like get into any of her drama right now with all the things going on Nicki Minaj, but a lot of people have a lot to say, and it makes me question a lot, like, people take enough time to realize just how little you know about people's lives. Like, people are like, oh, they don't text anymore, they don't talk anymore, and it's like, we really do not know those things. And so when it comes to Chloe, for example, we just do not know her. We have perceived access to her and her ins and outs, her livelihood. We don't actually know Chloe from the Man in the Moon. I'm sorry. I mean, if you do, congratulations, like, shout out to you. But I don't know. I'm gonna throw a guess out there. But listen to this podcast, you don't know Chloe personally, and so I think it's our perceived understanding that we relate and we know these people because we know ourselves, but that's actually not true. If you really put it on paper, the way you know your coworker and you maybe have their number, we don't know Chloe, we don't know Halle, and so even when people talk about her, comparing her to Beyonce, I'm fine with that. It's kind of off topic, but I'm fine with that. Like, it's okay to be inspired by somebody. It's okay to be, to want to model after your mentor, And if Beyonce can live on to somebody, I mean, all power to them. I need that. I am gonna be selfish. I need that. And so, for people to be like, oh, like, as if they know Chloe and they know she's just copying Beyonce, like, mind your business and enjoy the music. Okay, it's okay if something is like Beyonce, because Beyonce is inspirational. I would hope she inspires somebody to create something like her. Anyway, Now with China, it's the same thing. Like people can make a lot of fun at her about how she shares her faith, but at the end of the day, we don't know her. We do not know how she navigates that. We have an idea of what she gives us, and that's one part of the conversation. But we don't think about her mental health, her mental happenings, her family life, her church life. Like we don't understand any of that to really have access to say we know China McLean and we know where she is with X, Y, and Z. And so I'm always in the camp of reminding people to mind their business because, and this is coming from me who just talked for 30 minutes about every celebrity, but like there's a difference. Like I'm not making assumptions about people's inner lives because I don't know those things, like, and people will make judgments on assumptions they have about people and not know them, and that's just not fair at all. And it also ties into, this is actually tied into a video I listened to by Julesy, who I talk about constantly on this podcast. But for to have accountability with somebody or for somebody, you have to like have a relationship with them, and not a relationship that is parasocial, but a relationship that actually like I can reach out to you and have a conversation. If you can't have a talk with somebody, you can't get them accountable. I'm sorry. So when we talk about like accountability for celebrities, it's close to non-existent because, and this is also why cancel culture tends to be really frivolous and has a lot of holes in it, because you can't keep somebody accountable if you can't reach them and they can't reach you. And so like, anyway, it's a bigger topic, and accountability is like the word of my year. If you actually end up reading the guided journal, a big theme in that book is accountability, and justice. And anyway, it's brilliant. I think you should pick the book up, but it's not about the book right now. It's about the tap out. So now it's a tap out. Actually, I have a rant, as I've been alluding to this entire time. And this actually came up because of a video also made by Julesy. That was not intentional. She had a video out recently about how Black women harm Black women in our culture today. And a really small part of that video, she mentioned one of the ways being how we weaponize therapy in our communities. And I was like, that's something I need to talk about on the podcast, because I completely agree. I feel as though when we talk about what therapy means, we're talking about getting the tools we need to build self-awareness and also to build the skills we need to advocate for ourselves and pursue our own personal wellness, right? And so in that, therapy, I feel like in popular culture, especially in Twitter culture, has become kind of used against people. And there's levels to it. I guess I'm trying to say, when we talk about recommending therapy to people, I feel like we can do a better job at carrying it in love, because some people can't afford therapy. Surprise. Accessibility is a big issue right now in the industry of mental wellness therapy. Like we do have on the rise like telemental health, BetterHelp, all these different companies, and that's awesome. But when it comes to like that private practice office therapy, especially if you want culturally competent Black therapists in your area, it is difficult. A lot of them will not take insurance because of how tricky it is to use insurance in your practice, as I'm learning. There's so much to it. And right now there's so many policies against people who maybe don't have a diagnosis necessary, but just want to talk to somebody. And insurance may not cover those kinds of conversations. And for a lot of the people who deal with breakups and the other partners like, well, go to therapy and get your life fixed, like that might not be enough to get a write-off on your insurance. And so like when we think about sending people to therapy, it almost is calling back very heavily to those insane asylums. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're crazy, go to the crazy place. I think it's slowly becoming that. And kind of off topic, but there's these threads now of people who are like, if you've been to therapy, drop one thing you learned from your therapist. You can build a thread together. I think at its core, it's beautiful, right? Like, let's share the love. But I guess something to leave this tap out session with is, for those who have gone to therapy and have had the privilege to see a therapist, how accountable are we to ourselves or to our community to share what we have learned? Because I've gone to therapy and I have this podcast where I've talked about what I've learned in bits and pieces. But therapy is personal, and I think therapy is less for the average person. It's less about what you can give somebody and more about what you can give yourself, because now you know yourself better, and now you have the tools to manage yourself better. And so I think there's this fear and this pressure we have sometimes of like, okay, I went to therapy, so I have to be better than I came in. It doesn't have to be the case. You can go to therapy and realize that you need more work. And then you have to stop because you maybe can't continue paying for it. And that's fine. And so going to therapy shouldn't be this thing of like, I went once and now like I'm better forever. Like that, you know what I mean? Like that's not how I feel like it's supposed to work. There are people who needed to have a maintenance and improvement for their disorders. That's, I think, a different conversation. But I mean, like, kind of like walking well people who day to day are generally fine, may experience a bad day or two. And I feel like, yeah, like we do a better job at like rounding out our ideas of therapy, what it means to go to therapy, what it means to tell someone to go to therapy, and how that actually could be more damaging than having a conversation with them and checking in yourself, especially if you've been to therapy, right? Because I think to an extent, if you know better, you gotta start doing better. And so I feel like if you've been to therapy and you tend to like just say, write it off, it's almost like a scapegoat word. You just send it off and be like, well, go to therapy and come back to me later. Like, like the more you know, especially when it comes to like how hard it is to open up and be vulnerable. Someone might not be comfortable going to a stranger first and opening up. It might be better if they come to you first and say, hey, can I talk? And you can't, I don't necessarily want to say you need to become a therapist for them, but you can be an active listener. You can hold space for them. That doesn't cost money. You know what I mean? And so like, I don't know. I think I just kind of want us to do a better job as a people, as a community, when it comes to pitching therapy to people, because it has become a little bit hostile. And I think it's just one part of a bigger puzzle of personal wellness. And it's not like one size fits all, and especially in the time we're in where there's so many different kinds of therapists and different access to different people with different perceptions and lenses that they all have, right? And so like even trying to find the right one can be so hard. And so I hope this all made sense. It was very all over the place because again, I have no notes. But that is all I have this week. This was great. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to be working very hard on the Patreon. Working hard on getting that bonus content out for you guys. The newsletters comes out still every other week, so look forward to that. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can at JessAlexToday. On Twitter, the same name. If you have a question, ideas for the episode, guest ideas, please feel free to email me at heartofshama@gmail.com. This will all be in the description. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. On Apple Podcasts, if you have the time and the grace, please rate us 5 stars because we appreciate it. And by we, I mean me, because it is me. It's just Alex. And so with that, thank you. All love. I will see you guys next time. Tap in, tap out.